Hey, yo, what's up, man? It's your boy HipHopGamer, the one and only. I got my man Jim Boone. This is my brother. He just light skinned and stuff like that, but this is my brother right here. I love him to death. Yo, say what's up to the fans, man. What's good?
How's it going, fans? How are you doing?
They all right. Yeah, so I'm excited, man. Dog, I've been waiting to talk to you like ever since PAX, man. Word up.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, man. So before we get into the questions, because I got like 11 questions for you. I got 11. So we about to shoot, you know what I'm saying? But before we go, I just want to know, how are you doing? You know what I'm saying? How you feeling? How's the family? How you feel, man?
I'm doing good. It's been, it's one of those fun phases where you're finished with the product.
Yeah.
And today, now it's out, and we've seen how people reacted to it and everything. And so it's, I'm doing good. It's been nice to be able to kind of recover a little bit after a long development cycle,
Especially after that, first million that was sold. Congratulations on that, baby. That's what I'm talking about, son. I got the press, I got the email. I was like, yes. So it was good to see that because we need growth, in the industry, and that's one of them games that like defines the industry too. So that, congratulations on that, man. Seriously.
I totally appreciate that. It's pretty gratifying. You know what it's like. You talk to enough of us guys doing this stuff that you work so long and hard on this thing, and you're putting a lot of yourself into it, and ultimately you hope that it does well. I mean, obviously it's a business, right? So you hope it's selling and needs to sell, but the thing for us at Volition that's gratifying about it is that you see that many people are buying it, and it's like, hey, cool, people like the game, they like what we did, and that's awesome. There's no better feeling than putting in that kind of effort into something and then see people react that way. Yeah,
I loved it, dog. Trust me, I ended the game and everything. Awesome, you know how I get down. I loved it. So, first question, right? Yeah. Right, okay, so Saints Row has been very successful franchise for you guys. So what's the plan to keep it successful moving on to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One?
Well, first off, that implies we're actually doing it for PlayStation 4 and Xbox.
You see how that trick question was?
The big thing for us, I think, has always been, as we've been working on Saints Row along the way, is trying to figure out what is it that people really like about the franchise. And then how do we do more of that? Like, how do we bring that to the forefront? So I often talk about the story of the evolution of it, where when you look at Saints Row 1, try to imagine, if you went back in time, someone that played Saints Row 1, and then you showed them Saints Row 4.
Wow.
How's that possible, right? It's absurd. There's no way you can get to that point. But I feel like if you look at the franchise as a whole, you can see that kind of evolution of where it goes from one to the next, right? Because in Saints Row 2, it was all about trying to figure out, people really like the over-the-top stuff that we were doing in Saints Row 1, so we're pulling more of that out in Saints Row 2. And then we saw how much people responded to that in Saints Row 2. So then Saints Row 3 was all about, let's just go absolutely absurd. Yeah. And then once we saw how well that did, now it's let's go completely crazy. Right? And so I guess when I'm going with that, I'm trying to dodge your question a little bit about anything for the future, right? But it's, I think that's the philosophy that we try to maintain, is that we know that ultimately we're making these games for the fans, right? And for the people who are gamers out there. And so let's make sure that we're trying to bring more of what we see that the people like to it, and bring those elements and weave that into the game. And that's what we've done along the way. And
just to piggyback on that particular question, history have a way of repeating itself. And according to the fans, this is what they tell me, but they would love to see what Saints Row 1 was, how it was a bit more serious and had a darker tone, and then things got kind of comedic, you know what I'm saying, throughout the years. History kind of repeats itself sometimes. Do you think history can repeat itself with Saints Row 5 if you guys make one and make it more darker and more a bit serious and less crazy?
It's interesting because I will say that as far as the franchise goes, I think that you can go in a lot of different directions with it and not totally alienate the fans. And what I mean by that is that you're exactly right. We hear it too. We've got fans of Saints Row 1. And you've probably seen a lot of this, right? We have fans that say Saints Row 1 and Saints Row 2, that they love that tone more than they like the crazy over the top of Saints Row 3 and 4. Yeah. And so what I mean by that is that I feel like it gives us latitude to do things in a lot of different ways with whatever it is we work on, right? Because we know that there are fans of each style. The key for us, and this is the part that's the challenge, and it's something we talk about a lot, right? Is that how do you try to serve both sorts of groups where they don't feel where you don't offend one group or the other, right? So for example, in Saints Row 4, we tried to bring in a lot of characters from Saints Row 1. So when we bring the team back from Saints Row 1, that was our way of trying to do a nod towards our long-term fans who maybe like that grittier style. Yeah. Bring him back, and then with some of the missions we did with him, have it be a little bit of a grittier sort of mission. So in his Nightmare Realm, because again, talk about it, right? It's back in, it's back at the church, right? Like it's back in your crib, back in Saints Row 1, so we can bring back some of that grittier sort of feel.
Yeah, it was crazy, man, playing that. Oh my God, it was crazy just to go back, son. I couldn't believe I did that.
We love being able to bring back some of that stuff, right? And especially like for friends who've never played it, maybe it's people who only picked up Saints Row 3. Excuse me, they've never played Saints Row 1, they might not know what that church is.
Yeah.
And so to them it's like, it's this really cool, decrepit church. But for the fans who've been around a long time, right?
They know what that is since day one.
Right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so that's a way to say that like we can try to walk the line, I think, between being a little more serious and gritty in certain areas and then still have an over-the-top sort of setting. So we feel like we've got a lot of latitude to go to a lot of different areas with whatever we do.
Okay, all right, that's perfect, man. All right, now the next question. Did you guys happen to create a new in-house engine to support PS4 and Xbox One development? Or will you be using Unreal 4 or another licensed engine? I love when you smile, man. I love it, man. Word up.
I smile because it breaks my heart that I can't answer that question. That is one that, unfortunately, I can't really talk much about anything PS4 and Xbox One related. I mean, I can say this much because it's pretty obvious, right? Obviously, we're looking at it. Obviously, we've got the hardware. We're planning things out. But it's but unfortunately we're at a point right now where I can't really talk about like what we're doing from an engine standpoint or from a property standpoint. Like what are we specifically working on? I mean we're getting closer to the point where we'll be able to start to talk about that stuff, and I'm anxious for it.
Yeah, I'm anxious for it too. I'm anxious for it too. Well, but before we move to the next question, from a game development standpoint, what engine are you most impressed with? Because CryEngine, they talk about how they're the best in graphics, and then Unreal Engine, they talk about their versatility. Like, there's a lot of engines out there. So in your opinion, just from a game development standpoint, what engine, if you could say, that you probably like the best at this point?
God, it's interesting because you touch on a couple of the big ones, right? And I feel like I feel like I'm going to cheat now by answering this, right? It's almost like a hodgepodge of a bunch of different things, right? So, for example, when I look at the Unreal Engine and the ability to be able to create things, so something as basic as being able to give the tool to a designer and say, "Script me a mission," right? Like the ability to be able to the power with that engine, with the tools for those guys to be able to put that together is huge. It's amazing, right? And then I look at the graphic fidelity of something like a Crytek engine, right? I mean, like the stuff that they put together. When I look at stuff like Rise, like Jesus,
Rise is like crazy. Rise is crazy.
To look at it, right?
Yes.
But then the one that, like, selfishly, right, the one that I probably look at the most, and frankly, in all honesty, I know the least about in terms of what their tools are like, but the technology. When you look at GTA 5. And you look at the world that they've created on current gen, the fidelity of the visuals. I mean, man,
that's yo, you gotta give me that. Like I'm trying to give you that on the camera. All right, cool. There you go. That's crazy,
it's sweet, right? Like I mean, there's just no two ways about it. That engine is awesome.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so that was some great input right there. You know what I'm saying? Live on HipHopGamer. You know how it goes down. You know what I'm saying? So check this out, right? Now, will we ever see? This is one of the most important questions in like. I demand an answer on this one. I demand it. All right. Okay. Will we ever see Johnny Gat make a cameo appearance in other games? Please do. He's one of the most illustrious characters. Period. Like this is my dude.
Johnny Gat shirt right now.
Oh, see, look, you got him on your shirt. Come on, man. Please, man.
I'll answer this way. We love Johnny Gat. Johnny Gat is awesome.
Right.
So it's hard to say whether or not he'll be in something else. But if there's the opportunity to put him in something else, I think it's probably fair to say that you would probably see him in something else.
All right, cool.
Because so all kidding aside, right? Like that is our character. That's the dude that we love the most.
Yes.
It's always been challenging for us because you've got you customize your character. It's always been important to us, right? Because we want you to create him like him, her, whatever it is. Right. By the time you're done with it, you identify with it, and it's very, very powerful for gamers.
Yeah.
But the problem with it is that it's harder to identify with that character because it's whatever your creation is. And so a lot of times, like, people like the style of whatever the character is. So, like, in Saints Row 4, the fact that it's the president and all the things it does, that's really cool.
Yeah.
But because it always is different to whatever you want it to do from game to game, that's not the linchpin character. It's always Gat, right? Gat is the constant.
Yes.
Everyone has always loved. So he is our favorite guy, without a doubt. He's our favorite.
Just off on a side note, if Johnny Gat was in a fighting game, which one would you want him to be in?
Oh, So this is an easy one for me. But this shows my age a little bit. Street Fighter 2.
Oh!
It's like when I was in college, like that was pretty much my major in college was Street Fighter 2.
Wow.
All I did was play that fucking game. Was Street Fighter 2 forever.
Yo, cool.
It's all about, so yeah, and Street Fighter 2 would be amazing.
All right, cool. All right, great. Now on to the next question. All right, okay, this is kind of, I know you might be biased towards this, but I think this is very interesting.
Okay.
Who would win? The Saints or Grove Street Gangsters from Grand Theft Auto series? Also, would you guys ever come together for a game? Because I think that the Saints and I can see Johnny Gat and CJ, you know, from San Andreas going at it, or my man Franklin. I can see that happening. So those two worlds coming together, talk about making money and having like that energy, intensity, and you guys complement each other in terms of your games. I think it's one of those situations where the industry, it'll be the most shocking revelation to gaming like in history. Seriously, what are your thoughts on it? Let me know.
Yeah, I totally agree with your notion of the coming together side. So I think that, I think there might, here's the way I can imagine it off the cuff, right?
All right.
So sort of battle at the beginning because neither side quite knows what the other side's all about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like both sides are, they're about like getting things done, getting paid. I think they would like quickly put aside whatever that rivalry is and come together because I agree. They would totally complement each other in a ton of different ways. That would be so cool. So let me ask you this, right? If Rockstar came to you guys, or if you guys came to Rockstar with a concept of bringing Grove Street Gangsters and Saints together, what's some of the things you would do from a gameplay standpoint? What's some of the things that you would add, considering now that you got this dynamic, just from a game development and your expertise? What would you add to a game like that, gameplay wise? It's an interesting question. I've never even thought of something like that. I mean, the things that jump to my mind immediately are to think of the differences between the two franchises and talk about how they might be able to cross pollinate. So for example, I think in Saints Row 4. Like some of the craziness we had with our weapons, with the crazy technology, the aliens and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you had areas in GTA 5 where they were flirting with like the different aliens, right? And like some of the hidden materials around there. So like there's a little bit of, like the fictionally, there's a little bit of parallel that you could kind of draw on there. But I think of like GTA 5, like really the whole series, right? It's about each area. There's such a fully realized sort of incarnation of whatever that area is. Yeah. And the characters and the vibe and everything just totally gels. And then with us, it's like these crazy, harebrained schemes that the Saints come up with and the total audacity of everything. So that's kind of what I'm imagining. It's like Saints go into this very realized sort of world, and then they bring their special brand of lunacy. It would probably work quite well with Trevor because he's
Trevor. Oh my! Trevor and Johnny Gat. Trevor and Johnny Gat.
Figure out like what would that be like, and how would they commingle and exist within that world that they've developed.
Yo, I'm telling you right now, Trevor and Johnny Gat together is scary. Oh my God! You just got me extra excited.
Scary. That would be
epic. I'm telling you, man. I really think that. I really think you guys should think about that. The reason why I say that because I talk to other developers and companies, and I tell them like, yo, one of the things that's missing in gaming is seeing a togetherness within the creativity. Everybody is competition is great. I compete as a journalist. You know what I'm saying? That's great. But those once in a lifetime moments where you could come together and do something. It's just like when you look at the NBA. You got these teams going against each other all year, but they do come together for the All-Star game. You know what I'm saying? And I feel that Saints Row, Grand Theft Auto would be like the All-Star game of sandbox gaming. Like, you know what I'm saying? I really think it'll be that, and I really feel it's something that should not be overlooked. That's just my personal opinion as a gamer, man.
I'm totally with you on that. It's funny because they're like I think a TV show sometimes will do their crossover events or whatnot, right? And there's certain things, comic books, just like every comic book in the world pretty much has that sort of thing. And we actually had something in mind. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, so I can't get into a lot of details of it, but it wasn't Rockstar, I can tell you that much. Okay. As cool as those guys are, it wasn't them. But we've talked about trying to do more of those kinds of tie-ins between the games, because you probably get that vibe pretty clearly from the Saints Row games, but we're entertainment junkies, whether it's other games or movies or music or anything. Like we consume it all. We love pop culture, right? So we always thought it would be awesome to be able to do some sort of game tie-in and it was actually an Enter the Dominatrix. It was our expansion pack.
Oh wow, yeah.
There was an element there in one of the missions where we were like this close to getting a tie-in with another game where we could have actually embedded it in the game. And our thought being that, like, you know, our game is so insane that like adding another element of a game would make some sort of weird sense with what we do, right? Like we can get away with it because we're kind of this comedy where we're doing all kinds of craziness.
Well, I'm
totally with you. Like, I think something like that is just a matter of time between when someone does something like that, because it's right there for people to do.
Yeah, I think it'd be great, man. Okay, so now I want to ask you this: is E3 too soon to expect a new reveal from Volition?
It's your boy HipHopGamer. Welcome to the Now Digital Network.